Good evening. At 7 o'clock, I'd like to call to order the Town of Sheffield Selectboard for February 21st, 2023. I want to thank CTSB for recording this program and letting those who are here know that they can also record just upon letting the chair know. All right, we've got a pretty interesting agenda today, so lots of things on it, so let's get started. We're going to pass over number one, as there are no meeting minutes to approve. The second thing we're going to talk about is an update on the May 8th town election. Rhonda, do you want to do that, or would you like me to do it? What would you prefer? Thank you.
So we have this paper prepared by our town clerk regarding the local election for 2023. Nomination papers for the annual town election, for the May 8th annual town election are available. You must be a resident and a registered voter in good standing to run for office. The following offices appear on the ballot. Moderator, 1 for a 1-year term. Selectman, 1 for a 3-year term. Library trustee, 1 for a 3-year term. Planning board, 1 for a 3-year term. Planning board, 1 for a 1-year term, which is to fill an unexpired term. If you're interested in seeking office, please come to the town clerk's office to obtain nomination papers. The deadline to obtain those papers is Friday, March 17th. The deadline to submit papers to the registrars for certification is Monday, March 20th. The deadline to object or withdraw your nomination is Wednesday, April 5th. The last day for unregistered residents to register to vote is Friday, April 21st at 5 p.m. Voting by mail is available for the May 8th election. The deadline to request a vote by mail ballot is Tuesday, May 2nd.
Thank you, Rhonda. I just also want to add that the town clerk would really appreciate it if everyone who has not filled out their annual census would complete that and get that in. Apparently, if you do not fill out that census according to our town clerk, you run the possibility of being placed on the inactive voter list. I guess you will be placed on the inactive voter list. So please take care of that. And I think that's it on that. Thank you very much, Rhonda. Our next item is an appointment announcement for the Ashley Falls Historic District Commission. Rhonda, could you help us again, please?
Sure. So we have an email from Ann Dunn, who would be interested in becoming a member of the Ashley Falls Historic District Commission.
So we will take this up at our next meeting, which will be in March. Thank you. Next, we have an award bid for 2 items. One is for a stone 4,000 2-ton roller, and the second one is for a 9-foot butterfly plow. Rhonda, again, please.
These were both placed on municipal bid. They have been on there for 2 weeks. So the high bidder for the 2-ton roller is William Trott, and his bid is $2,955, which we were kind of shocked at because this was an old roller that had been outside the highway garage for years and really didn't run very well.
So you're pleased?
Yeah, very pleased
Great.
with that one. And then the 9-foot butterfly plow is going to Stephen McLean. He's from Maine, and the top bid on that was $1,500. He purchased things from us before. I believe he purchased one of the old fire trucks. So I would recommend that you award both of those.
Do I make a motion that we award the stone 2-ton roller to William Trott for $2,955 and the 9-foot butterfly plow to Stephen McLean for $1,500?
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, great. All right, next item is discussion possible action regarding a draft 5G small wireless general bylaw. Now, this is something that I drafted up after there's been discussion on this. The board has had a chance to maybe look at this, but not seriously, given that it was just handed out at a previous meeting. This is a public record. Anyone can get a copy of it with just a records request. I want to thank Rhonda for giving me the contact of the town manager at Upton, or town planner. We both share the same legal firm, and we did a lot of discussion on this. Most of this was just developed by researching 5G bylaws across the United States. I wanted to just see if what the board would like to do about this. I do want to make the comment that we are getting a lot of, and we'll discuss tonight, a number of items from the planning board as well as this. Did you ask to take pictures?
No,
I'm trying, is the photographs allowed?
That's up to you.
I don't think I have a problem with photographs, but I think just as a courtesy, just as we asked to have, no, just as a courtesy, we'll ask that you ask the chair beforehand, and it is granted, okay? So we have a number of items that we may wish to talk about putting on a separate special town meeting, because the annual warrant is sufficiently long usually. But basically, the whole intent of doing this 5G, and it does need some help with legal, and I would hope to cut it down considerably, the length of it, by putting things like applications, a reference to that, and then there's a side document. But I did not want to go any further without having some legal assistance. And KP Law does have a woman who is very talented, and that person was recommended by the planner or town manager from Upton. My whole purpose of this is that there seems to be a lot of interest in 5G. This is written according to what is currently allowed. The town has missed the aesthetic standards ability, which was only through sometime in 14. But at least if we were to consider giving this to the voters for their review, we would at least have a permitting process, and we would have a process whereby the installer has to certify upon installation and then annually thereafter that it does meet the FCC emission regulations at that point. So there is somewhat of a safety check on that. I'm not going to get in the discussion of what the FCC has or has not done since they were ordered to update their emission standards. That is outside of this, but it would deal with what is on the books with the FCC. The town will have a ability to discuss and vote on the citizens petition that was introduced by SAFE. So I just kind of, we don't have to, in my view, have this ready for town meeting in May unless the board feels that it should be, but I would like to just get the discussion going. So, discussion, please.
It looked very thorough to me. I had no problems with it. I was a little bit concerned about the way it was worded in the fees for a small cell. I can't remember. I didn't bring my draft with me tonight. It was a small
little box.
cell, whatever.
Yes.
But it sounded like the
Antenna.
permit fee was for 5 units.
Up to
and
5,
then
1
it
to
had-
5.
And the units are the transmitters themselves that would be placed on poles?
Yes, it's, I could bring in some photos, but it's the transmitter and it is the connection that is needed to make it viable. So there's usually a box or there's something up there, and then there's connections onto the ground. But the license that I spoke of, which would give this board the right to review a license and make sure that it is kosher, would be, and these are standard fees, I did a lot of research on this, would be 1 to 5 units. And then after that, each additional unit. And then there's a renewal every year at which they have to certify that the unit is still in viable FCC emission standards at that point.
No, other than that, it was very clear and looked good to me. I didn't see any problems.
Yeah, I don't have any problems with it either. I just don't think it should be on this May's warrant. I think we've got too much else. I think, SAFE has put one forward, and I think we should let the voters address that one, and then
Okay.
we can, it'll give you time to deal with this.
It will.
in
I
a-
appreciate
Rather
that.
than jamming
Yes,
it
I
in.
appreciate that.
I think we have plenty
Yes.
for town meeting,
Yes.
so I would just like to recommend that we just table it for this town meeting.
Well, why don't we just agree on that? And possibly, I'm at a point where I'll continue to work with the gentleman from Upton, because we're both doing the same thing, and there's no sense for us to pay two sets of legal fees. But I am at a point where I need to talk to someone at KP Law about this, to make sure that it conforms. I also want to take out as much language as possible so that we've been warned by town council not to put anything more into this would be a general bylaw, not to put anything more that you have to change later on. And I even would like to find a way to take the fees out and put them to a schedule if that's allowed. So it's just kind of a straight, we're not going to have to change it until there's a significant change. May I get permission from the board to work with KP Law on this?
Yeah, I don't have a problem with that.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, great. So, does the board wish to discuss now, or would you like to discuss later if there is anything else that we may be taking up tonight that goes on a special town meeting?
I don't have anything else.
Okay, all right. So, let's move forward. Again, this draft is available upon a records request, and it would be yours. All right, moving on to the next item, and thank you very much. We, at a previous meeting, said that we were going to apply for a community development block grant for the money that will hopefully allow us to have up to 15 units of low to moderate owner-occupied housing in Sheffield rehabbed. After that meeting, Pat let me know that she needs letters of support. So I've been out beating the bushes, and this is a draft of one from us. So I don't know if you're in a position that you want to make comment tonight, or whether you would prefer to get things back to Rhonda or Jill sometime during the week, like we could add this to our Thursday's agenda, if that would be preferable.
I had a chance to review it. I don't have a problem with it.
I don't either.
So I'll make a motion that we go
Okay.
ahead and authorize this to be printed for signature.
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Next item is for review and action is the proposed zoning bylaw amendment on dark sky protection.
Did you?
Did I update some, did I
think you
miss
skipped
something?
number 7.
Sorry, I'm dealing with.
That's okay.
Yes, here's another item for, thank you. There's another item for a community development block grant. Apparently, we need to designate the environmental certifying officer, and we have a letter to that effect that Rhonda has drawn up for us. I would nominate Rhonda for this position, Rhonda Lombard, our town administrator.
I'll
What are
second
the
it.
duties of the environmental certifying officer?
I have no idea.
Well, I don't know. Do we want to appoint someone? We're not sure whether or not she's got the skills for it.
Yeah, from what Rhonda, do you remember this? I remember a little bit about this.
I really don't, but, so they draw up the paper certifying environmental issues for any of the projects that they're going to do.
Okay.
And then, that includes like maybe if there's lead or anything like that, there's certain certifications.
Special requests.
that have to-
Okay.
It's kind of I don't want to say perfunctory, but
It's
it's
kind of
a
boilerplate in the
general,
event.
it's a
Okay.
general
And you
thing
have
we
been
do.
the environmental
And she's
officer
done it as
prior,
long as
correct?
she's been here.
Okay.
Yes.
Then I'll go ahead and make a motion that we
Okay.
appoint Rhonda as the environmental certifying officer for the Massachusetts Community Development Block Grant.
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Rhonda, I'll just sign this and send it over to them? And make sure, it's all submitted online, so it doesn't need, to be printed in color. I'll bring a copy in. I'll take care of it, okay? Thank you very much. All right, now we're back to dark sky protection. We do have one member, Sarah?
Yep,
Do we
sorry.
have? I don't see any other one else. I don't know if you were planning to make any comments tonight? No. All right, so let's just talk about this. As I think the title of it says, dark sky protection. I think for a long time, the planning board, myself included, when I was on it, thought we had dark sky protection, which is really dealing with lighting, but we didn't, so I appreciate the planning board picking this up. Comments?
I did read it. I'm a little concerned with it. It goes a little farther than what I would like to see. I do think we need some type of light ordinance for intrusive lighting. If your neighbor is shining floodlights into your backyard, or a large greenhouse grow is lighting up yards like it's daylight, that needs to be addressed. I'm not sure I would go as far as this would take it, as far as the type of fixture, and it gets very in-depth. I'm not overly concerned with stargazing, so this kind of goes beyond my thoughts. My thoughts are mainly just being neighborly and addressing light pollution. I don't really want to tell the church they can't light their steeple up at night anymore because of this dark skies initiative. So as I do believe we need some kind of control as far as illumination. I don't think we need to go quite this far.
That's exactly what I was thinking, Bob. I think it's gone a little too far. I was concerned about the paragraph where any commercial and residential luminaries that are, when a property transfers, has to be brought up to code on that. I think that's really very far-reaching, and
Can you reference the section,
I
please?
think it's section 6.3.3.
Mm-hmm.
The very bottom of
Number 4.
Section 4A, a change of use of property or any other modification requiring a special permit. Determination of zoning enforcement officer that a legal non-conforming luminary constitutes public hazard, blah, blah, blah. I think it's a little excessive.
So that's a specific comment. Do you have any other things that we might send to the planning board?
It's the only one that I had the time to flag today that really jumped out at me as really, I thought really kind of onerous, and I just don't know who's going to enforce all these like-vote issues, so. We have a very part-time zoning enforcement officer, and I don't know that he's gonna have time to deal with this. I don't disagree with Bob. I think that there should be some protection for citizens who have, neighbors that are shining floodlights into their bedrooms at night, but other than that, I just think this is a little far-reaching.
I have a slightly different opinion. I have comments on it, and quite a few, that deal with, I think, sort of somewhat of the legality, like on the public lighting on new installations. I don't think the planning board can do that. I think that's the Selectboard's authority. And I had issues with where a special permit is required and where the planning board can determine an exemption. I don't think we have any exemption process under our zoning bylaws. So I have just quite a few comments here. And I think what we should do, I again, I do appreciate what the planning board has done. This, I think, is very much modeled after the dark sky bylaw that was adopted by New Marlborough. So I think we should put our comments together and send them these comments, and Nadine, whether it's just marking anything else that's on your
I'll take the
Bob's.
time.
Okay, I think Bob's comments are pretty clear. I think I don't know, Rhonda, maybe you can help us. The planning board does their work, they send it to us. Now, it's our job to do what? Make comments and send those comments back to them and send the whole packet back to them.
Yes, and at some point, legal has to come into this as well.
Yes.
To take a look at what they've drafted. So
Yes.
maybe that happens at the same time the selectmen are sending their comments.
All right, because we have individual voting rights as individuals, but this board, does this board have the right to say, no, we don't support this, like the planning board can say on anything that's sent to them, as such a citizen's petition or such?
Right, I believe that your comments back to them will be any changes or correction or concerns that you have, or that you don't have any. I don't believe there would be a support or not support.
Okay,
It just
that
be
would
what
come
you
at
have
town
comments
meeting.
for.
Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and pass my comments down to Rhonda, because they're all here. Can I ask you just to pass that down, and my name's on it? And how shall, it's my understanding, the public hearing on this and the next item has been scheduled already for March 8th?
Yes.
Okay, so we're on the 21st. How do we work this out with we now have two versions, their version and the select board's comments. Okay, how do we get legal involved, and when do we do this? I mean, there's time before the May meeting, if in fact this goes on the May meeting, that's, once the warrant is, we have a little bit more information, but where do we bring in legal?
I will send it over to legal now and ask for their comments as well, so that they can get back to the planning board to hopefully before the public hearing.
Okay, and we send the packet that we would send back, which includes our comments to legal?
We can include ours as
Okay.
well, too.
All right,
And maybe they'll be listening.
possibly. Okay, so could we have a motion to do that on this?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, so we've got a motion that we're going to send our comments, the planning board's draft, to legal for review. Hopefully, it will be back by time for the public hearing. Any further comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so let's go to the second item that the planning board has sent forward, and that is an amendment to the zoning bylaw table of use regulations to deal with the changes in all zones with residential uses, two parts. One is to change multifamily dwelling containing up to 4 dwelling units. That would change it to yes from planning board approval in the rural and village center, and planning board approval now required in the commercial and the general business where before it was not permitted. With regard to the second change, multifamily dwelling containing up to 6 units, it would do in the rural district where it has not been permitted, it would allow it by right. In the village center district where it has been by special permit, it would make it by right. In the commercial and general business where it has been no, it would make it by special permit. So were there comments on the board from this, on this?
I have a question,
Okay,
and basically my question is, what were the thoughts behind this change? Are we looking at by right condominiums of up to 6 dwelling units? I'm not quite sure what we were after. Is this a new development? Is this a existing development being expanded? We also don't have public sewer here, so that would mean you would need a septic system that would handle 6 dwellings. So I'm not really sure where the planning board was looking or what their thoughts were. If their thoughts are condominiums or low-income housing is a whole nother animal versus, you know, somebody that comes in and wants to put up some high-end condos.
I have a feeling that this change, and we won't know until we ask the planning board, might have something to do with our housing production plan, which asked planning to do some review of their usage chart to see if we can freeze things up a little bit to allow, for instance, a large dilapidated building that used to be commercial to be renovated and restored into affordable apartments. And so I'm thinking that's probably where this has come from. I just feel that I would like the planning board to be able to approve all of the requests. I think it's important that somebody review what's coming so that it isn't a high-rise condo project. You know, if it's going to be, you know, something that sort of fits into the New England demeanor of Main Street, you know what I'm saying. I think I'd like to have the planning board have approval and not just by right use of all of this. I think that's a really big adjustment moving forward. I'm in favor of providing the opportunity to take very large unused properties and restoring them into something that is usable housing, but I'd really like to see the planning board be involved in that process and not just by right use.
I agree with that, and I don't see any reason why you couldn't have a 6 dwelling unit in the rural district, but I would rather it be through planning board special permit. And as far as commercial or general business, I don't see any reason why it should be excluded like it was.
Right.
But again, I think that definitely should be under special permit.
Yep. But that's how I feel about all of it.
Okay. Sarah, did you wish to say anything, please? Just identify yourself, please.
Sarah Boyd, 16 Main Street, and I am a member of the planning board. I would say that Nadine sort of nailed it there, is that this comes out of the pretty well documented need for more housing, available housing. Affordable by workers, by local people, it's not affordable, as in capital A, affordable. But the reason we made it by right in the rural and the town centre is that I think it's also believed that if it has to, anything that needs to come through planning board gets a permit, we want to make it easier for people to actually create this kind of living situation. And so anything that has to go through a permit slows it down and makes it less attractive to do that kind of work. So it's by right, but all the restrictions that exist, the setbacks, and all the restrictions that exist currently as it stands are not changed. It just makes it, they still have to come up to code, those restrictions. They just don't have to get a permit from us to build or renovate the 4 to 6 unit home.
But that would also allow any developer that wanted to come in and do a 6 dwelling condominium project by right, when it would exclude the planning board from having any say in that.
It would.
And it
And
may not,
we don't have anything stopping
Right.
people with millions of dollars putting up a single home.
but it may not give us what the intent is.
Well, the
affordable
intent,
housing.
well, that's an a desirable aspect. It's not the only. We do want affordable housing, but we know that we just need more housing, not more million-dollar mansions, not, high-end buildings, but more homes to live in
Yeah,
general.
my only concern was that this means that somebody could come in and build 6 condos at $500,000 apiece. And I don't think that meets the planning board's intent, nor the housing production plan, which kind of put this in your ballpark. So I would just love to have you have that further discussion with the planning board, because I'm only thinking of the worst case scenario. The best case scenario
Yeah.
would be to have exactly what we want to come out of this, but the worst case scenario could be that we would create 6 units of something that doesn't really help us.
That's interesting. This part of the conversation came out of meeting with Construct and reviewing some of the things that we discussed in the housing production plan. Their recommendation, their number 1 recommendation, was to do exactly this, make it by right. But I do hear what you're saying, and I do see that happening in other towns, not so far away from here. And I think that's an interesting
I
thing to
think you
consider.
should just chew on it first.
Sure.
That's all I'm asking, just chew on that
Thank
thought
you.
for just a minute.
Thank you very
Thank you,
much.
Larry. But I do so appreciate this attention.
So we're in the same situation here. My comments, I'm going to take a copy of this, Rhonda, before I give it to you. But I found that there were several things in some of the other sections that hadn't been brought up to date to reflect this. It has to do with additional lot sizes required, and one in particular deals with dimensions that are needed so that the lot size is large enough to put both the water and the sewage, and this would be probably some sort of a sewage packet. So I'm just highlighting those things where I just felt there needed to be further work done to bring it all into sync and make it all match, so one section in the bylaws matches the other. I think the comments on the planning board are so appropriate. There's a fine line between NIMBYism, if I've pronounced that correctly, and having people vote something down at town meeting because they're afraid of what's going to show up next door to them. And if we really want to move, in my view, this forward, people need to know that there's some place that they can go and they'll be able to see it. They can make their comments. The site plan will be reviewed. This thing won't be god-awful and inappropriate. Our property rights and our properties are usually the most important and most expensive asset we have. So I've always been a fan of special permits, and anybody who's going to do this can well afford the extra $250 because they're going to be making, even if it's with Construct and for affordable, which I would hope it would be a very small investment. So shall we take the same action that we submit our comments to Rhonda? They get put together, and we run this all over to legal and work to have that ready for the March 8th hearing. The planning board will put forward afterwards exactly what they want, it will go to town meeting, and we'll see what happens. So we'll get our comments, by Thursday to Rhonda, if that's all right. I'm going to make that motion.
Second?
Is there any further discussion?
No.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, okay. Oh, yes, this is a good one. So, our senior center van just will not go away, okay? And as we may remember, I hope everyone has seen it, it's so beautiful, and it's already making a difference. Is that correct, Nadine?
It is, absolutely.
Wonderful, excellent. So when we put the bid on for this, it was pretty scrambled, and in the sense that we were really moving very quickly because we had been told there was money still available, and we could not find a person on the state contract that was bidding Toyotas. So we went with a commercial bid, and what that gave us was a lot more money than we needed. And so this board has previously authorized over $9,000 to support this bid, but the van came in less than we expected. We have added car mats and trunk mats. We have added snow tires. We have added the logo, and we still have money. So working with the USDA, they have approved a carport for this van. And, it's a metal carport like the veterinarian on Miller Avenue, except quite a bit lower. So it's covered on the top. And our share of that, it's $3,940. Our share of that would be $985 because we're 25%. That would still mean that if the board were to approve that additional cost, which the USDA has already approved, we would still be $787.25 less than our original 25% authorization. And it will attach into the asphalt, so that's kind of that. So I just need to know if the board wants to approve this
I just have one
use of money. Mhm.
Does this quote include labor to install it?
No, it doesn't.
Okay.
Okay, it includes the transportation, and it comes with anchors.
It actually does say delivery and installation included on the quote.
Well, you're right. I
does.
didn't read that.
I missed
So
that,
they're
too.
going to have to, thank you.
Because I thought it was a really good deal.
I had
Yeah, it
Kathy
is.
ask on that, and I'm sorry, lots going on tonight, I didn't remember
Yeah,
that
that's
detail.
fine.
I don't know how they're gonna do it, they're gonna contract with someone,
Mm-hmm.
but, yes, it does, Bob,
Excellent.
okay? And
Even better.
we did even get a discount.
Yeah, I saw that.
So, what would the board like to do?
I would like to make a motion that we authorize the board to spend $985 from the Berkshire School account to cover the difference on purchasing.
Maybe what I can do is, we already have authorized this money. Maybe we could just have a vote to shift its usage.
Okay, if that's what you need.
How's, Rhonda, is that, because we've already authorized the money.
Okay. Then shift it to the proper purpose.
Okay, great. We'll do that.
And I will second the
Okay,
shift.
Wonderful. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
This has really turned out to be quite wonderful, to be honest.
It sure is.
I wanted to just spend a few minutes, if we could, just letting the public have an update on what our budget process is. We're starting to go into that. And Rhonda, I don't know if you can talk about our just briefly the process and when we're having our first meeting and anything you can add to the discussion.
So the budget presentation will be at the Finance Committee meeting on February 28th at 5 p.m. That'll be the initial budget presentation.
At 5 p.m.?
Yes.
And then do you have scheduled when, or Nadine, you're also on the Finance Committee, is it then every 2 weeks?
I'm not sure what they'll do this year. I'm hoping they'll do every week, but we'll have to see what
Okay,
everyone's
so
schedule
that will be
allows.
on the schedule, on the calendar. Okay, so people can check that. It will also be posted downstairs, so they can check that. And we're going to put the budget online this year, right?
Right, but are we putting it on after it's approved?
Well, we got a little bit of grief at the last town meeting for not having the budget available as it was being gone through for people to see.
So I would suggest that once finance is finished with their going through it and the recommendations that we put in on before town meeting on what residents will be asked to vote on.
Yeah, I don't think it makes any sense to post something
It's a
that hasn't been approved yet.
I kind of agree. I don't really want to be having a lot of input as we're working through each budget.
All right,
It's
so,
always available, if anybody wants
okay,
to
so there's where it is. We'll put it on for sure once it is all done, but anyone who wants the stack of papers that goes with it can make a records request. Okay, because I do know that there were some people who, one person in particular gave us a little bit of grief.
We don't
It's
govern
okay.
for one.
Okay, no, but.
That
we-
person can come
but
ask for what they want.
That's exactly right, and
Yes.
anyone else who wants it, I really do feel this board has gone a long way for being transparent, and this would continue that effort, that someone can request a copy just under a records request, and that'll take care of that. So first start will be the meeting, which is open to the public. It will be in person, 228, at 5 p.m., and then the meetings will be scheduled and on the calendar and the bulletin board going forward. I think we've got that. Thank you
ma'am.
very much, Rhonda, I appreciate it. Next item, okay. I just want to give a very quick update on the construction schedule for the bridge replacement, Kelsey Road over Dry Brook. The turtle fence will go up in March, by April 1. This board at its last meeting approved moving the National Grid utility poles. If they get that done by the end of March, our engineering firm has said that it should go out to bid in April. Everything goes well, it should be awarded in May. Again, everything goes well, construction should start in June, and they're looking at a 9 to 12 month construction project. The road will be appropriately blocked off. So I just wanted to give that update because there's been a lot of questions on this, okay? Board member items, Bob?
The only thing I have is I would like to announce that I will be seeking re-election this year for another 3-year term.
Delightful. Thank you, Bob.
That's very good news, Robert.
That's
Thank you.
excellent news.
Thank
Yes. That's it?
That's it.
Nadine?
I just wanted to mention that both the boys and girls basketball teams from Mount Everett will be participating in the state tournament beginning next week. They're doing Western Mass this week, and they move on to the state next week.
That's
Excellent.
wonderful.
Unfortunately, I think the first games will be in Boston, so it's a really long trek to cheer our kids on. But
And it won't be virtual.
yeah, it won't be virtual.
I would like unless Rhonda's going to do it under town administration. Rhonda, are you going to say anything about the housing production plan? What? Do you want to say anything, Nadine, since you were the chair of that committee and you and your committee put so much work into
We
it?
did get approval from the state of our housing production plan with 2 very minor changes. The only one that sticks in my head right at this moment is that we had said that our goal would be 9 units per year, and they're telling us we only have to have that be 8. So that was a very minor correction, and I can't remember the other one, but
It was even minor.
it was even smaller. So I'm very pleased that the state accepted that plan without any major adjustments. So good job to, Sari was one of the people that participated in that, as was Brittany Ebling and Martin Mitzoff and Frank Garrettson.
Kathy Orlando.
And Kathy Orlando.
And John James.
And John James, yeah. I mean, we could not have done it without the team working together. And so I'm very, very happy we got that approval.
Yes, congratulations to all of you. I have no board member items. Town administrator? There's none. Public comment? Yes?
William Kelsey. It strikes a nerve here with this multiple housing, because we're squeezed by the land trust. The land trust keeps gobbling up acreage. No young people, including myself, would like to be squeezed into multiple housing. We like to have our own space. So It's an issue that doesn't seem to be addressed. We need space for young people to build a house. We need young people to stay in town to be firemen, ambulance drivers, and school teachers, and administrators. But we keep gobbling up land to save for Nature Conservancy, which I'm 79, I'm not going to be around to see the end of it. But I'd like to see that this town adopt an ordinance that if somebody puts 100 acres in a Nature Conservancy, that a certain segment of that is saved in perpetuity for whoever comes along 5 generations from now will have a place to live. So this multiple housing thing that we are faced with is because we got to do something. We got to take an old barn and convert it into a house, and then we have a sewage problem, and then we have a water problem. We need to stretch it out over the whole town and not just clump it, clump it, clump it. And so I've brought up this issue before, and I'm not going to stop until something is finally adopted where open space is fine. We got thousands of acres. We got a lot of farmland around here to look at. Need a space for young people in the future, not just now, in the future. Thank you.
Hi, Nina Anderson, President of the Scientific Alliance for Education in Sheffield. And I want to commend you, Renee, on taking what the 50 people who signed our petition for the 5G, for going beyond that and doing a bylaw. I really thank you very much for having the presence of mind to realize that this is an important issue. And you did mention before that you were looking for a committee to help you, and I'd like to volunteer. We've done.
I'm looking for a committee to help me. I'm sorry if I misspoke. May I comment? Because
Sure,
I don't
sure,
want
go
you to
ahead.
be under the wrong
Right.
impression. Several meetings ago, when you brought forward your citizen petition, I did in the hallway ask several people from SAFE to provide me with a general bylaw, and nothing has come forward. So I've done this research on my own. I've spoken with the gentleman from Upton. But as far as I'm concerned, I'm going to be working with KP Law directly and keeping the gentleman from Upton in the conversations, because we're both working on the same thing. But I'm sorry if I gave the impression I'm looking for a committee.
Okay, well, I just thought
I am not.
we've worked with Andrew Campanelli, who has helped a lot of towns form litigation or forming their bylaws so they're not going to get hung out to dry down the road. And we've learned a lot. We've gotten, I've gotten some exhibits here, which I'd like to leave with you so that you can, put them in your brain and figure out maybe if they could be added to the bylaw. But it's nice to know that you're trying to do this. I just would like you to have some of the research that we've done and the contacts that we've done throughout we're throughout the state of Massachusetts and working very heavily in eastern Massachusetts with our group out there, and also with New Hampshire, who has done a lot of this bylaw work. But we've got a lot of understanding about it, and we're a good resource. And I really would like to see if you could help yourself and use some of our research and talk to us about it so that you can make sure you draft a really foolproof bylaw, especially when it comes to the health of the people. The pollinators in Sheffield, all the little bees and stuff, they're going to be definitely hurt by the 5G. And that's going to affect our agricultural community and our economics. So we need to make sure something like that is in the bylaw. Primarily, the thing that we're focused on is the FCC was court mandated in 2021 to look at the 11,000 pages of harm that were given to them and to research it and to update their safety regulations. They have not done that. They've totally ignored it. That's what our warrant was about. Until they do that and decide whether this stuff's going to kill us or not, why should we be guinea pigs? Why should we end up being potentially liable for any decisions we make when people get sick down the road? So since we've got all this information, we would really like to be able to offer this to you. We hope you will accept it from us and see if we can all work together to make sure that this is a really good bylaw.
Well, thank you, Nina. I think several weeks ago, it's got to be going on a month, when I asked in the hall for SAFE to come forward with a model 5G bylaw that we could look at. There was a gentleman with you, I don't know if he was from Great Barrington. You were there. Nothing has come forth.
I never heard
So, I'm sorry.
Sorry.
Our memories are different. So I am working in my own, I will read your information.
Thank you.
But my proposed bylaw will adhere to current FCC guidelines and will not get into the court-mandated work that the FCC has chosen not to do. This will be reviewed by legal, and I hope to put forward at the right time with my colleagues' support a very good 5G bylaw, which will stand up to court actions and will not get into what the FCC has not done. I'm only going to deal with the reality of what is accepted legally now. But if you wish to leave your materials, I will look at them. But you and I are on a very different path. You are going to present your 5G bylaw to the town in May. I hope that the Select Board will support what I'm doing and will present their bylaw on 5G at a later date, but not too far thereafter.
May I just make one comment? You say that you're doing the FCC, what the FCC regulations are. They have not updated their regulations
I'm very much
ever.
aware of that, Nina, and I don't want to get into an
No, I'm just
argument.
saying that-
I'm very much aware that I have read your bylaw. I understand what it is trying to do, but I'm not going to change the FCC. So I'm working on writing a bylaw that is legally permissible and standard right now. Your bylaw, whether it is adopted by the town or not, will stand on its own. So if you wish, you may leave the materials. I'll be happy to read them, but I'm working with KP Law on this, and I'm not looking for a committee. Thank you, though.
I would just ask you, okay, to prove to me that the frequencies of 5G are covered under the existing 1996 Telecom
Nina,
Act.
I'm not a lawyer, I'm not a
That's what we're
judge.
talking about.
Okay, so we're going to time out here, all
Yes.
right? You've made your point. If you'd like to leave your materials, I appreciate that. I will look through them. But as I said, I'm not looking for what the FCC should be doing by court mandate. I think they should have done it when they were mandated it, but I'm dealing with what is right now.
And-
So if, no more, please. You know, you've made your point several times, and I have heard it, as has our audience and those in the room. So please just leave your materials, and I will read through them. Thank you
Okay,
very much.
And
Is there anyone else who would like to make? Yes, sir.
My name is Tom Marshall. I live on 316 Miller Avenue. This is a fascinating process. I should come more often. You definitely have your hands full with all the issues. But I do want to speak on an issue that perhaps you've been thinking about, and that is this issue of solid waste and this issue of the possibility of imposing are you okay? Yes. We'll wait.
I'm so sorry. Take a breath. I'm so sorry, Tom.
Okay.
Please continue.
That's all right. The concept that the state of Massachusetts is floating is that they would like to see some type of incentives to the towns to reduce their solid waste, and in the process, they're handing out checks, but it doesn't resolve the problem that you guys have been fighting, and long before you're fighting, is that people still need a solid waste program in our town that works effectively. And I must say, if you've not been to our town solid waste, our program here, transfer station, there are some nice folks there who work there, and they do a wonderful job. They're friendly, and they tell you where to go and where to put the materials, et cetera. The concern I have is that there's an idea floating around called pay-as-you-throw. And this pay-as-you-throw program, in effect, is called a bag tax. This bag tax concept is simple. If you charge somebody a fee for a bag, et cetera, they're going to be more aware of what they put in the bag and how much, et cetera, and try to use more recycling. The concept works well. The problem is the enforcement issue, and it's a huge issue, because a lot of times when you go to enforce a program that has a lot of problems, including what's in your bag, somebody standing there by the transfer station issue, the box itself, and that kind of thing, it leads to a lot of issues. And I'm suggesting that perhaps we may want to look at what we've done right, not take a direction and going in the wrong direction. We have a wonderful program in place right now. It works well. It meets our budget every year. You have the same people. Correct me if I'm wrong. I mean, I've done a little research on this. And I'm just hoping that you won't take that bite from, or the bribe, if you want to call it that, from the state, to say, try this program, and then encumber us for a future period of time that's going to create problems. Not only for those who can't afford to buy the bags, because there are some families who in our town, as we know, who can't afford to buy these bags. And the other issue, obviously, is the idea that we all come together and learn this concept of using the resources we have from our children to our universities about how to do a more of a scientific-based and environmentally friendly approach. And that's why I think we should really put a hold on accepting the state until we really do our homework on this and maybe have a town meeting on it to really drive the point home.
Thank you, Tom.
Thank you.
Before you leave, Tom,
I'd like to get your last name and your phone number.
My name is Marshall, Tom Marshall.
Maybe I could get, I don't necessarily want to have
That's all
you-
right, I don't mind.
I can just
I
get
don't
it
mind.
after me.
That's
I just
okay.
want to say that I am working with,
Thank you.
on a grant that we got to evaluate a pay-as-you-throw. I've told this to the board before. Mr. Kelsey is
I
going
know it
to-
wasn't on your agenda, I'm
Oh,
sorry.
no, it's okay. This is public speak. Mr. Kelsey has volunteered to help with that. I have so far not received the research back on that. The idea, and nothing is going to be imposed without one, public input, two, this board approving it. So we are way away from this, all right? I'm also our recycling coordinator, and, we have done so much at the transfer station. This town has to really ramp up electronic recycling, cans and plastic. We've got the bin out there for the bulky waste. We've got the food diversion. So people are really doing a good job. We just need to have more and more going into recycling because we're running out of land fill space and our tonnage costs are going up. But nothing that doesn't make sense is ever going to be adopted by this town, okay? At least I hope not. So we're far away from that. I'd like to get your phone number after the meeting because I would like to involve you in that if you're willing to be involved. You can think about it, okay? All right.
I would be, open to, offering any suggestions and or
Wonderful.
working on a committee or something like that.
Wonderful, excellent.
That'd be great.
I'll catch you right after the meeting,
All right,
okay?
thank you.
Is there any other, Sari?
Sheffield, want to address a couple of things about the dark sky, the comments. Our bylaw proposal was based quite heavily on New Marlborough, but we backed off a number of things that we thought were more extreme and unenforceable. So we've already backed off some of the things that were in there. And other than stargazing, other reasons not to light the sky at night is in the US, we spend millions of dollars, waste millions of dollars lighting the sky at night, which really doesn't need to be lit. And so what the bylaw is really all about is, in new fixtures, is getting our lighting down so that it lights what we want, what our intention is to light, and not lighting the sky. So one, there's a monetary benefit. And two, the next thing is we have lost millions of birds in the world because of the sky at night not being dark. They lose their ability to find their way, and so environmentally it's also a really wasteful and fixable, very fixable thing to do. There's no going back on the lights that already exist. We're not asking people to change anything. It's only going forward. And so when it comes to the church lighting their steeple, they can still light it. We just ask that they light it down. So, thank you.
Any other comments? Yes.
I'm Catherine Levin. I work with Nina at SAFE, the Scientific Alliance for Education, Vice President there. And I just wanted to clarify a little bit the proposed bylaw that we're submitting, just so that you understand that there is a difference between, I call it the land of wireless broadband, and then there's the land of telecommunications. And what the FCC actually addresses is telecommunications. It doesn't address broadband. And the small cell millimeter wave antennas, which are known to be very harmful to pollinators, to birds, to biological beings, there's all these studies and scientific things that show the harms. And I have thousands of papers I could show you, and we're trying to figure out ways that you can see all the scientific data, because it's a lot. So I may just put it on a soft drive and bring it to you to bring you up to speed. But the bottom line is that the FCC does not regulate that type of stuff. They only regulate telecommunications, which is the phone call part. So the broadband is on the small cell antennas. And that is a lot of data that goes in these channels, that's pulsed magnetic stuff. And that's where the harm is. And that's what we want to not implement in Sheffield. That's the area that is not completely done, but it's also not what was the FCC is regulating, because and all of this is in the documents that we submitted, so you can take a look at that. But I just want to be clear that it's like two different worlds, and what we're just trying to halt is the implementation of something that's not really part of what the FCC's, what telecommunications is trying to slip in. I hope I said that sort of clearly. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any other comments?
Otherwise, I will take a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
Second?
All those in favor? Aye. This meeting is drawn to a conclusion. Thank you for being with us tonight, and thank you to our viewers.